passenger plane with 66 people on board has crashed in central Iran. The airline now says it's too early to say whether anyone survived the crash, despite having earlier claimed all passengers and crew had died. Relatives at Yasuj airport, where the plane was heading from Tehran, are not giving up hope. Reports say ambulances cannot reach it as it's in a mountainous area. An emergency helicopter sent there was also unable to land due to bad weather. Press TV journalist Yusuf Jalali reports from Tehran.
Just 2 minutes before the airplane would get to its destination, it crashed into Mount Dena, some place near the city of Semirom, located in the southern part of the province of Isfahan. So what happened was that due to adverse weather conditions, due to foggy weather, the pilot lost his vision, and he was trying to find a place where he can make an emergency landing, and according to eyewitnesses in the city of Semirom, he was trying to land and make an emergency landing on a pasture near the city of Semirom in the province of Isfahan. But unfortunately, on this process, the plane crashed into Mount Dena. Mount Dena is located in the southern part of the province of Isfahan and just in the north of Yasuj, where the airplane was destined. We do know that 66 people were on board the airplane, which is an ATR airplane, and all of those 66 people, 6 crew members and 60 passengers died because of that incident, unfortunately. So Iran is in shock.
The plane is a French-Italian short-haul aircraft. The model was first introduced at the end of the 80s, and the last time an Aseman Airlines plane crashed was 24 years ago. Back then, the plane suffered a sudden loss of power. 66 people were also killed in that disaster. The plane was operated by Aseman Airlines. This is the third largest carrier in Iran. It operates domestic and regional services.
Breaking news out of Iran to begin with. A passenger plane carrying 66 people has reportedly crashed. It was flying from the capital, Tehran, to Yasuj, an area to the south. Let's get more now from CNN senior international correspondent Sam Kiley, who's in Abu Dhabi for us. Sam, what more do we know about the area where the plane went down, other than it appears the weather was not good?
Not good, to say the least. A rescue mission launched by the Iranian authorities. A helicopter was forced back in an attempt to get to the location where these 66 passengers on board this twin turbopropped aircraft that crashed not very far from its final destination. But they crashed in an area known as called the Dena Mountain, which itself is a vast range, really, more than 40 peaks of over 4,000 meters. That's well in excess of 12,000 feet. A lot of them snow-covered. This being winter, of course, in the continental climate, can be some very severe conditions, and clearly that was what prevailed when the first attempt to get a rescue team into this location was forced back, the Iranian authorities say. Now, they will no doubt be trying again. The aircraft took off at 5 to 8 local time, so the day is still yet young. There is still several hours of daylight when it may be possible to get to this location. There's no official confirmation as to whether all or any of those people have survived, but the assumption is, given the location and the very harsh conditions, that any hope of survivors would be pretty slim. The aircraft was manufactured in Europe. There is no suggestion yet at all of foul play, but Iran has, of course, been battling against international sanctions imposed on it over its nuclear weapons program. Those sanctions, of course, have been eased relatively recently, but nonetheless, a lot of their aircraft have been having to be maintained by buying spare parts, for example, on the black market up until relatively recently. Again, no suggestion that this was a mechanical failure. This is a mountainous area prone to storms, very high altitudes, and not an easy environment to fly in at the best of times. But for the time being, bad weather has forced back any rescue attempts.
Sam, has there been any information regarding any final communication with the pilots before this plane disappeared?
Not so far. There is an indication, there are some reports that it disappeared from radar after around 50 minutes, which would dovetail more or less with its flight plan, heading it as it was to Yasuj, and coming down, or at least disappearing from flight radar after about 50 minutes, would place it over that very high mountain range. But there is not, at the moment, as far as we understand, any last-minute communication that has come from that aircraft. And of course, the speculation there being, if there was last-minute communication, perhaps the aircraft was experiencing some difficulties. But at the moment, we have no official confirmation of that.
Went down in Isfahan Province. It's believed there are more than 60 people on board the flight. Let's cross now live to Tehran. To tell us more on this is the journalist Ganbar Nadiri. Welcome to TRT World. What more can you tell us?
Well, Jamie, we are starting to get, information gradually. We are getting more details about this tragedy today that happened in the early hours of morning. We are talking about a passenger plane, an old passenger plane, propeller plane, which usually has daily flights, routine flights from Tehran to Yasuj in Lorestan province. The plane carries about 100, can carry about 100 passengers, and the average number of those that got on board today was about 65. We don't know the exact number, the final number. All we know is that the plane went out of radar after 15 minutes takeoff from the capital, Tehran, and now we have started learning more about the way it has landed on a field near the city of Yasuj, where it was supposed to arrive later today, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But as I said, this is an old plane. This is a routine flight, the only plane that flies from Tehran to Yasuj, and it has been doing these flights routinely for the past 10 years or so, and unfortunately it has crash-landed, but because the officials are happy. They say that the pilot has tried to crash land on a field, which means that there might be possible survivors.
Can you tell us a little about Iran's safety record when it comes to aircraft and the maintenance of the aircraft fleet?
Well, I'm afraid I don't have good news to say. We have serious problems with our aviation industry. We are under sanctions, and our airplanes are outdated. Some of them even date back to before the revolution in 1979, and we have had crashes in the past due to the old structure of these passenger planes that we have. The good news is that we have signed new contracts to buy and purchase new airplanes in the coming future, but it is a gradual process because America refuses to allow Boeing, let alone Airbus, to sell us new planes. So if you're talking about a flight track record, I'm afraid we don't have a good safety record for the time being, and we have so many proper planes, and this was one of those that crash landed today.
Ganbar Nadiri, thank you very much indeed. And
صبح هرچی زنگ زدم جواب نداد بعد زنگ زدم داداشم گفت میرسه دیر نشده گفتم اینجا هوا بارونیه گفت نه دوباره زنگ زد به من گفت سقوط کرد خواهرم
آخرین بار کی باشون صحبت کردین؟
ساعت 7:50 گفت دارم میام.
دوورمه.